Breaking news just hit the US auto market, and it is sending shockwaves through dealerships, rival automakers, and truck buyers across the country. Toyota has dropped a bombshell that no one on Wall Street or Main Street was prepared for. Massive discounts on Toyota trucks are rolling out nationwide, and this is not a seasonal promotion or a quiet dealer incentive. This is a strategic move that is shaking the entire US auto industry from the ground up. Toyota trucks have always carried a premium reputation. Buyers expected to pay top dollar for Tacoma and Tundra models, often facing long wait times and limited negotiation power. That era is suddenly over. Dealers are now advertising price cuts that were unthinkable just a year ago. Thousands of dollars are coming off sticker prices. Special financing is being stacked on top, and inventory that once vanished overnight is now sitting on lots longer than Toyota ever planned. This did not happen by accident. Toyota is reacting to a market that has turned sharply against automakers. Truck demand is cooling, interest rates remain painfully high, and consumers are refusing to overpay. Toyota sees the warning signs clearly. Instead of denying reality, they are moving fast and aggressively, choosing volume over margins before the situation gets worse. What makes this move so explosive is the timing. American truck brands are already under pressure. Ford, GM, and Ram are sitting on rising inventories, bloated pricing structures, and buyers who are walking away in frustration. Now Toyota has stepped in and undercut the entire segment, forcing competitors into a corner they cannot easily escape. Dealers are feeling the heat immediately. Toyota dealers are being pushed to move metal, not protect prices. Incentives are widening, negotiations are back, and the leverage has quietly shifted back to the buyer. At the same time, rival brand dealers are panicking because shoppers are cross-shopping more aggressively than ever. A discounted Tacoma suddenly makes a mid-trim domestic truck look overpriced overnight. Industry insiders are calling this a reset moment. When a brand like Toyota breaks pricing discipline, it sends a signal that demand is weaker than advertised. It tells buyers to wait, negotiate harder, and expect more concessions. That mindset spreads fast, and once it does, the entire pricing structure of the truck market starts to crack. This is especially dangerous for automakers already stretched thin. High-cost production, expensive labor contracts, and massive EV investments have left little room for error. If Toyota can afford to cut prices and still move trucks, others will be forced to respond even if it hurts their balance sheets. Price wars rarely end cleanly, and this one is shaping up to be brutal. For consumers, this could be the first real shift in years. Trucks that felt permanently out of reach are suddenly coming back into play. Buyers who walked away in 2023 and 2024 are re-entering the market, armed with patience and options. Toyota's move is telling them they were right to wait, and here is the part no one is saying out loud yet. If Toyota is cutting this deeply now, it raises serious questions about what the next 6 to 12 months look like. Are inventories building faster than expected? Are sales forecasts quietly being revised down? And how long before these discounts spread even further across the industry? Because once the strongest, most disciplined player in the truck market starts blinking, the rest of the industry has no choice but to react, and that reaction is already beginning to ripple through showrooms, pricing sheets, and buyer expectations across the country. The ripple effects are already becoming impossible to ignore. Competitor dealers are watching Toyota traffic surge while their own lots stay quiet, and that imbalance is creating internal pressure to respond faster than planned. Sales managers are scrambling to justify pricing that made sense 6 months ago, but now looks wildly out of step with what buyers are seeing across the street. Every discounted Toyota truck becomes a benchmark that the rest of the market is forced to answer. Behind the scenes, automakers are facing a brutal math problem. Production volumes were set months in advance based on demand projections that no longer hold up. Plants are still pumping out trucks at near full capacity, while consumer appetite is clearly cooling. Toyota's discounts are not just about selling trucks today, they are about preventing a backlog tomorrow. That is a signal the industry cannot afford to misread. This puts domestic brands in an especially tight spot. They rely heavily on truck profits to subsidize losses elsewhere in their lineups. When pricing pressure hits trucks, it threatens the financial foundation of the entire company. Toyota knows this, and that is why this move cuts so deep. It does not just compete on features or reliability, it attacks the profit center everyone depends on. Buyers are also behaving differently now. Shoppers are no longer rushing in out of fear of missing out. They are delaying purchases, comparing deals, and openly challenging sales staff on price. The psychological shift is real. Once consumers believe prices are falling, they stop accepting take it or leave it offers. Toyota's discounts have reinforced that belief across the market. Another critical factor is financing. Even with high interest rates, Toyota is stacking incentives in ways that soften the monthly payment shock. Subvented rates, cash rebates, and dealer markdowns are being combined to move units quickly. That strategy exposes a major weakness in competitors who cannot afford to match both price cuts and financing support at the same time. Industry analysts are quietly warning that this could accelerate a broader correction. The truck segment has been artificially inflated for years, driven by easy credit and relentless price increases. Toyota's decision suggests that ceiling has finally been hit. When prices stop climbing, gravity takes over and the descent can be fast. What makes this moment even more volatile is consumer memory. Buyers remember how quickly prices exploded, and they are now watching them come back down. That creates resentment and resistance. Toyota stepping in with aggressive discounts positions the brand as responsive while making others look stubborn or disconnected from reality. And this is where the situation becomes truly unstable, because if sales continue to slow despite these incentives, the next move will not be gentle. Deeper cuts, expanded incentives, and even production adjustments start to come into play. And once those levers are pulled, the market rarely snaps back overnight. There is also a growing concern inside the industry that this pricing shift could expose weaknesses that have been carefully hidden. For years, rising MSRPs masked inefficiencies, bloated dealer overhead, and shrinking affordability. When prices fall, those issues surface immediately. Toyota's move is forcing everyone to confront a reality they hope to delay. Suppliers are watching closely as well. Truck discounts ripple backward through the supply chain, squeezing margins for parts manufacturers, logistics firms, and even raw material providers. When automakers push volume over profit, someone else down the line absorbs the pain. That tension is already building, and it adds another layer of risk to an industry that is still recovering from years of disruption. Dealers, especially in high-cost metro areas, are feeling trapped. Floor plan costs are rising, inventory is aging, and discounting eats directly into already thin margins. Toyota dealers may move more units, but profitability is no longer guaranteed. Meanwhile, non-Toyota dealers are facing an even worse dilemma, watching shoppers walk while knowing matching those prices could mean selling at a loss. Consumers sense this imbalance and they are exploiting it. Negotiations are getting tougher, trade-in values are being challenged, and buyers are walking out more often. The power dynamic has shifted, and once that shift takes hold, it is extremely difficult to reverse. Toyota's decision has accelerated that change. There is also a branding risk that rarely gets discussed. Toyota built its truck reputation on durability, resale value, and price stability. Aggressive discounting threatens that perception. If buyers begin to expect deals as the norm, it could permanently alter how Toyota trucks are valued in the used market. That is a long-term gamble, and Toyota would not be making it unless the pressure was real. At the same time, competitors cannot simply sit still. Ford, GM, and Ram are being pushed toward decisions they hope to avoid. Price cuts, incentive stacking, and production slowdowns all carry consequences. Choose the wrong lever, and the damage can last for years. Toyota's move has effectively forced the entire segment into a high-stakes game with no easy exits. What is happening now is not just about trucks, it is about confidence. When a market leader signals urgency, it tells investors, dealers, and consumers that something fundamental is changing. That signal is spreading fast, and the industry is running out of time to control the narrative. And as this pressure continues to build, the next phase will reveal who is truly prepared for a buyer-driven market and who has been relying on inflated pricing to stay afloat, because the cracks forming right now are only the beginning of what could turn into a full-scale reckoning across the US auto industry. The financial markets are beginning to react as well, even if quietly for now. Investors understand that truck margins have been the backbone of profitability for years, and any sustained pressure in this segment changes long-term earnings projections. Toyota's willingness to sacrifice margin to protect volume is being interpreted as a defensive move, not an opportunistic one, and that distinction matters. Inside corporate boardrooms, emergency meetings are becoming routine. Executives are reviewing inventory data weekly instead of monthly, reassessing production schedules, and reconsidering how much pricing power they actually have left. The old assumption that trucks will always sell at a premium is being challenged in real time, and Toyota has made that challenge unavoidable. Another overlooked factor is how this impacts future product launches. When current models require heavy discounting, it becomes much harder to justify price increases on upcoming redesigns. Buyers remember what they paid, and they resist paying more later. Toyota's discounts today could limit how aggressively the entire industry can price next-generation trucks tomorrow. This also complicates the transition toward electrification. Automakers are counting on truck profits to fund EV development, battery plants, and software investments. If those profits shrink faster than expected, something else has to give. That could mean delayed EV rollouts, scaled-back features, or cost-cutting measures that ripple through the workforce. Consumers are already connecting these dots, even if subconsciously. They are questioning long-term value, reliability promises, and resale assumptions. When discounts appear suddenly, buyers start asking what changed and why now. Toyota's move invites scrutiny not just of pricing, but of the broader health of the market. Regional differences are making the situation even more complex. In truck-heavy states, discounts are deeper and competition is fiercer. In urban areas where demand was already softening, price cuts are exposing just how fragile sales volumes have become. This uneven landscape makes it harder for automakers to apply a single, controlled response. And through all of this, one thing is becoming clear: the narrative of endless demand and unstoppable pricing power is breaking down. Toyota did not create that shift alone, but by acting first and acting boldly, they have accelerated it in a way that no analyst report ever could. As buyers, dealers, and manufacturers adjust to this new reality, the next moves will define the direction of the market, because once expectations reset, they rarely return to where they were before, and the industry is now operating under rules that are changing faster than anyone anticipated. This is also forcing a hard look at marketing narratives that have dominated truck advertising for years. Toughness, exclusivity, and premium positioning lose their impact when discounts become the headline. Toyota's trucks are still capable and respected, but the messaging is shifting from aspiration to urgency, and that change does not happen unless the pressure is real. Dealership behavior is evolving rapidly. Sales teams are being retrained to close faster, negotiate harder, and prioritize volume over gross profit. Managers who once discouraged discounts are now authorizing them preemptively. That kind of internal shift signals stress, even if it is not publicly acknowledged. Used truck values are another looming concern. New truck discounts directly undermine resale pricing, and that affects lease residuals, trade-in equity, and consumer confidence. If used values slide too far, it creates a negative feedback loop where buyers hesitate even more, waiting for further drops. Toyota's move risks triggering that cycle, but again, it suggests they see the alternative as worse. Competitors are already experimenting with quiet responses. Regional incentives, dealer cash, and short-term financing offers are appearing without major announcements. This is how price wars begin, slowly and unevenly, before exploding into the open. Toyota fired the first visible shot, and everyone else is maneuvering behind the scenes. There is also a generational factor at play. Younger buyers are far more price sensitive and far less brand loyal than past truck buyers. They track deals online, share pricing data instantly, and walk away without hesitation. Toyota's discounts resonate strongly with this group, putting additional pressure on brands that rely on loyalty rather than value. Labor implications cannot be ignored either. If discounts fail to move inventory fast enough, production cuts become inevitable. That means reduced shifts, temporary layoffs, and ripple effects in manufacturing communities. The truck segment supports a massive ecosystem, and pricing instability threatens every layer of it. All of this is unfolding at a time when consumer confidence is already fragile. Inflation fatigue, credit stress, and rising living costs are shaping buying behavior. Toyota's decision reflects an understanding that pushing premium pricing in this environment is no longer sustainable, and that reality is catching up to the rest of the industry. As this situation continues to develop, every new incentive, every sales report, and every inventory update will be scrutinized more closely than ever, because what started as aggressive discounts on Toyota trucks is rapidly becoming a stress test for the entire US auto market. What makes this moment especially tense is the silence from many automakers. Publicly, executives are downplaying the impact, calling it a competitive environment or normal market adjustment. Privately, the tone is far more urgent. When a company as disciplined as Toyota breaks from its traditional pricing posture, it forces everyone else to question their assumptions. There is also a strategic element that buyers may not fully realize yet. Toyota is not just clearing inventory, it is defending market share. In a slowing market, maintaining volume is power. More trucks on the road today mean more service revenue, revenue, more brand exposure, and more long-term customer capture. That long game explains why Toyota is willing to absorb short-term pain. Meanwhile, smaller brands and fringe players are feeling squeezed out. They lack the balance sheet strength to engage in sustained discounting, and they do not have Toyota's reputation to fall back on. As pricing pressure intensifies, these companies face the harshest consequences, including potential exits from certain segments or regions. Another subtle shift is happening in consumer expectations around negotiations. Buyers are now entering dealerships armed with screenshots, online quotes, and real-time data. The information gap that once favored sellers has narrowed dramatically. Toyota's visible discounts validate buyer skepticism and encourage even tougher bargaining across all brands. Fleet buyers are also taking notice. Commercial operators, government agencies, and rental companies move quickly when pricing shifts. If Toyota captures a larger share of fleet sales through aggressive discounts, it could further distort the market and force competitors into even deeper concessions to stay relevant. The long-term risk is normalization of discounting. Once the market accepts lower prices as standard, climbing back becomes extraordinarily difficult. Automakers know this, which is why Toyota's move carries so much weight. It suggests the company believes the current pricing structure is unsustainable and that adaptation is no longer optional. And as more data comes in over the next few months, the true impact of this decision will become clearer. Sales volumes, inventory turnover, and incentive costs will reveal whether Toyota successfully stabilizes its position or triggers a broader unraveling. Because one thing is certain right now, the truck market is no longer operating on confidence alone. It is operating on urgency, pressure, and rapidly shifting expectations, and the consequences of Toyota's bombshell are still unfolding across every corner of the US auto industry. The next pressure point is already forming around pricing transparency. As discounts become more widespread, buyers are comparing offers across state lines, pushing dealers to match numbers they never expected to see. This is eroding regional pricing control and making it harder for automakers to manage incentives discreetly. Once pricing data spreads online, containment becomes impossible. Automakers are also wrestling with internal contradictions. Public commitments to premium positioning clash directly with aggressive discounting on the ground. That gap creates confusion for consumers and weakens brand messaging. Toyota's leadership understands this risk, which again underscores how serious the underlying market conditions must be to justify it. Credit conditions are amplifying everything. Lenders are tightening standards, loan terms are stretching longer, and delinquencies are being monitored more closely. In this environment, lower prices are not just attractive, they are necessary to keep transactions moving. Toyota's discounts are aligning with financial reality in a way others have resisted. There is also a psychological breaking point approaching for buyers who purchase trucks at peak pricing. As discounts spread, resentment grows, and that damages long-term brand trust. Automakers have to balance moving new inventory without alienating recent customers, a challenge that becomes harder with every price cut. International dynamics add another layer. Toyota's global scale allows it to offset regional margin pressure in ways domestic rivals cannot easily replicate. That structural advantage gives Toyota more flexibility, and competitors know it. The imbalance increases the likelihood of uneven responses and strategic missteps. As weeks turn into months, the industry will be forced to confront whether this is a temporary adjustment or a structural reset. Toyota's actions strongly suggest the latter. Once pricing discipline collapses in a flagship segment like trucks, the aftershocks tend to spread quickly and unpredictably. Every monthly sales report from this point forward becomes a referendum on strategy. If discounts move volume, the pressure to escalate will intensify. If they do not, deeper changes await. Either outcome carries risk, and there is no neutral path forward. And with all these forces converging at once, it is becoming increasingly clear that Toyota's bombshell was not just about selling more trucks today, but about reshaping the competitive landscape in a market that can no longer support the prices it once did. One of the most revealing developments is how quickly consumer behavior is adapting. Buyers who once focused on brand loyalty are now prioritizing timing and leverage. They are waiting for end-of-month pressure, watching incentive updates, and pitting dealers against each other. Toyota's discounts have trained the market to expect movement, not firmness. This environment is also changing how dealers view risk. Holding inventory at high prices is no longer longer safe. Aging units tie up capital, increase floor plan interest, and become harder to move once newer incentives appear. As a result, dealers are preemptively discounting to avoid being caught on the wrong side of the curve. Manufacturing forecasts are quietly being revised. Automakers may not announce it yet, but production targets are being reassessed line by line. If discounted trucks do not clear inventory fast enough, output will have to adjust. That shift does not happen overnight, but the planning has already begun. There is also a broader economic signal embedded in all of this. Trucks are often a proxy for consumer confidence, construction activity, and small business investment. When pricing pressure hits this segment, it suggests caution is spreading beyond discretionary purchases. Toyota's move reflects an awareness of that macro signal. Technology investments are now under scrutiny. Advanced infotainment, driver assist systems, and connectivity features add cost but not always perceived value. In a price-sensitive market, these expenses become harder to justify. Discounting exposes which features buyers truly value and which ones inflate prices without driving demand.